Welcome to 2027 Rhythmic Symphony Static Consciousness, where we take teachings from the Gene Keys, the Chinese I Ching, the Human Design System, and intuitive astrology, and we present them in a way that's going to help you along your own path, your own hero's journey during this great awakening. The name of the podcast comes from the third part of the threefold awakening sequence that is taking place for all vibrational life on this planet. The key years being 1987, the harmonic convergence, 2012, the melodic resonance, and 2027 is the rhythmic symphony. This is where humanity makes the jump out of shadow consciousness into our gifts and further beyond that into our cities where we remember oneness, harmony. We have Atlantean awareness awakenings, and we can enjoy the Garden of Eden. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and thank you for being a part of this movement on Earth. Today is Saturday, June 29th, and Saturn has just gone retrograde, and it will stay retrograde until November. So this is hitting me so hard. This is coming up for me so hard, and I just want to share with you guys what it might look or feel like, and then I'll give you my perspective, my point of view, how it's showing up for me in my fourth house of home and family. So Saturn just went retrograde today, and Saturn is known as the Lord of Karma. It's like he is here to bring these heavy lessons, bring us back down to reality, kind of like shake us back into reality. And it's going to be a restructuring of our foundations, but it's not all heavy, it's not all dark, and it doesn't have to be so serious. It doesn't have to be a bad thing as long as you take full responsibility for your actions of the past, your actions of the present, take full responsibility for your emotions and your feelings. And then if you don't like what's, smacking you in the face right now because of Saturn, you take full responsibility in changing it these next few months moving forward during this entire retrograde until November. So it's taking radical responsibility, radical acceptance for your role in your actions, your role in how everything played out, where you're currently at, taking full radical responsibility of where you're currently at, and then making conscious choices to change your situation if you don't like what you're being smacked in the face with right now. So this is how Saturn is the Lord of Karma. It's reaping what you sow and just seeing everything so crystal clearly. And it could be very heavy for some of you guys. It could be really, yeah, I just want to say it's heavy. It's pulling on my heartstrings very deeply right now. And I'll tell you guys how it's showing up for me, maybe to give you insight into your own life and how you can go learn how it's coming up for you and see what area of your life it's in. So why don't you bring up your chart and see which house Saturn is in for you and see where it's retrograding. So for me, Saturn is in my fourth house of home and family. And I actually happen to be visiting my family's home in New York right now. And just to tell you guys, like the full weight and the heaviness of what I'm experiencing right now, I'll just give you a quick backstory. Back in 2020, I was living in New York City. I was living in an apartment in Brooklyn. Then the pandemic hit just when my lease was up in Brooklyn. And I was like, time for me to move my ass back home to Westchester to be with my family. And it was this beautiful time of reconnecting with my family. It was a lot of inner child healing, strengthening my relationship with my family again, having like this renaissance, like connecting with my best friends from home, strengthening our friendships. And that's the time I got extremely healthy. I was biking 20 miles a day. I just started I became a full-time student in energy healing, energy work, everything that I have laid the foundations of these last 4 years that has now become my work and my teachings that I share with you guys now. It all began in 2020 when I laid my foundations by returning home again to my hometown in Westchester. So I built my foundations, and then it was such a beautiful time in my life for about a year and a half. And then towards the end of 2021, there was so much stirring inside of me. I was just like, I need to get the F out of here. I never saw myself as someone who would stay in their hometown, or I never just could understand how my friends and family were just like getting married and then having babies in the towns they grew up in. I just couldn't fathom that. That was so outside of my world and my realm of possibilities for myself. I always saw myself as this adventurer, as this wild woman. And it's really because I had this deep hunger burning inside of me. And this is a collective hunger. This is a collective shadow. Every human is born with this sense of hunger that leads us to search outside of ourselves to fill it up. And this has been, what's actually been driving humanity forward this entire time. It was for the progression of humanity. But it could also lead people to drinking, drugs, distraction, recklessness, and self-abandon. It's this burning hunger deep inside where everyone looks for like dopamine and serotonin and all of these distractions to fill us up because there is like this internal burning. And that is a very prominent theme in my own hologenetic profile. Each of us has 64 gene keys that exist within every single one of us, but there's going to be 4 gene keys that are extremely prominent in your life and that make up your incarnation cross in human design. There's genes 4 gene keys that make up your incarnation cross, which is your big life themes. And so one of those for me is the 35th gene key, where the shadow is hunger. And then the gift is adventure. And the siddhi is boundlessness. But it was this burning hunger I had inside of me that made me want to leave home and go on this crazy, wild, reckless, adventurous life. And at the time, I just saw myself as this fearless adventurer. I didn't see it from the perspective of the shadow of hunger, which now I can see so clearly 3 years later, now that I have returned home. And so now I'm dealing with these repercussions 3 years later. Saturn is boom, hitting me so hard with the repercussions of all the decisions I made 3 years ago when I left home. Because again, my Saturn is in my 4th house of home and family. I can see now that I left out of this hunger, this innate hunger I had burning inside of me, rather than this like sense of adventure, which I was viewing it in at the time. And now I'm dealing with the repercussions of it because my epic, wild, adventurous, hunger burning inside of me back in 2021, it did lead me on this beautiful journey. I quit my job. I went on a solo road trip, packed up the car, drove all my favorite things out west, not knowing where I was going to end up. But I went on this solo epic journey out west. It was so beautiful for a few weeks. I ended up in California. Then I went to LA, and I knew I was going to live in LA. I just felt like this is where I should be. I ended up getting a lease in LA. The universe was like conspiring to help me. Everything was falling into my lap. I had the most beautiful time in LA. Then I met my now husband, Nathan, in LA. I fall for him, and then he's like, "Oh, I actually live in Vancouver. I'm just spending a few months in LA." I go to visit him in Vancouver a few times, and I just feel so at home there. I love his family, his friends. I just felt like this is my community. These are my people. This is my tribe. I felt so at home there. We get engaged after 6 months. I get pregnant, and then before I know it, I am getting married, having a baby, applying for permanent residency in Vancouver, setting up my permanent roots in Vancouver. And now I have a baby in Vancouver in October of 2023, and I'm married. And I find myself on opposite ends of the continent, away from my friends and family back home. So um, now that my baby is 8 months old, I have returned back to New York, back to my roots, just when Saturn is going retrograde in my 4th house of family. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me so, 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 so hard. And I've just been crying the last few days. I've been so sad that I finally have a baby and all my best friends from home have babies too. And we've had the most amazing time this last month with all of our babies, me with all of my, family, my aunts and uncles, all of us having this beautiful time with my family, and me knowing that it's going to end soon. I have to go back to Vancouver soon. And, it just makes me sad that I ran away from my friends and family. And now all I want is to be with my friends and family now that I have this beautiful child that I want to share with them and be a part of and have help, have help from grandparents, from aunts and uncles, have sisterhood with my other best friends who have babies the same age. And this isn't my life. I left this life behind in 2021 when I went on this search, this, this wandering, and this sense of adventure I had. Whoop, the sense of adventure I had, it was really me trying to fill up this hunger, this shadow of hunger. And now I'm dealing with the repercussions of it. I'm dealing with it now, that I'm back home and this isn't my life. I chose to leave this life behind, and I didn't think about what it was gonna feel like to leave my friends and family behind and have a baby. I was just on this wild, epic adventure. And then now that I do have a baby and I'm so far away from my friends and family, I'm just really hit with the true reality and a wake up call of the life, the path that I chose for myself, and the heaviness of it, of feeling like now I'm sort of missing out on this life I could have had for myself, living in my hometown with my friends and family. And so I've just had to like feel the full weight of the heaviness of these choices that I made around my home and family now that Saturn is retrograde. And here's the thing, it's okay that I was feeling sad and heavy about it. And there's never any sense of regret. I have no sense of regret because that was the life that I chose. Those were the decisions that I made at the time with what I was working with. And I did have this, overall gift of adventure that was guiding my way. It was just also being fueled by this shadow of hunger. And to bring it back to the 35th gene key of this gift of adventure, the way that you truly ignite the gift of adventure and you make that permanent leap out of hunger into adventure is by bursting into the heart. And it's actually this implosion of serotonin and dopamine that's going to implode within you when you burst into the heart. And then you no longer have to go outside of yourself looking to be filled up or have this sense of like wandering or recklessness or addictions or distractions, but you burst into the heart. And I was able to burst into the heart and get that sense of true adventure when I got married, found my husband who I love so deeply and had my baby. Having my baby is what really ignited me to burst into my heart where I don't feel like I have this burning sense of hunger anymore. And now I could have just a peaceful life at home with my friends and family and not feel like a burning sense of hunger within me like I have to go somewhere and do something and I always have to be searching. Like that shadow is completely dissipated. I transmuted that shadow into my true gift of adventure. And adventure, the true meaning of adventure from the 35th gene key perspective, is bursting into the heart. And now my heart is so bursted completely wide open. And I finally have this sense of inner peace. And I finally have this sense of stillness within. And my life is one big, grand, beautiful adventure. That is a major key in my hologenetic profile is I'll always have this sense of adventure. That's always going to be one of my greatest gifts that I bring to this world. And if you ask my friends and family, that's probably one of the things that they love about me the most is that I am this like fearless adventurer. Whatever is calling me, I'll go do it. I'm not afraid to make big changes. I'm not afraid to completely change my life and switch up my life and turn everything on its head and try something new and put myself out there. This really is one of my gifts. And perhaps it would have never been ignited if I never left home, if I never went on that grand trip out west. I would have never met Nathan and I would have never had our baby Eris and I would have never ignited my true gift of adventure. But now I just have to take full radical responsibility for those decisions because now I'm feeling the full weight of that big adventure I went on. It now means that I don't live in the same physical location as my family and as my friends. And it just hit me so hard. Like I've been crying so much these last few days because Saturn, the Lord of Karma, is showing me that, you know, everything had to unfold that way. I was a co-creator and I was co-creating from this place of this shadow I had of this hunger. So I co-created my existence from this shadow that I had. And now it led me to the gift, but I still have to deal with the repercussions of co-creating from the shadow, which is now I live not only on the opposite side of the country from my family, I live in a whole new ass country. I'm legit Canadian. Like I am a permanent resident of Canada. And I have to take full responsibility for that. And it is a beautiful life. I freaking love my life in Canada. I freaking love my life in Vancouver. I am so happy in Vancouver. I love my life in Vancouver. I love our family. I love our community. I'm so grateful for everything that brought us there. Um, and I take full responsibility for all of it, but then I have to deal with, now I live this life far away from my friends and family. So, thank you for listening to my explanation of how Saturn retrograde is affecting me through my fourth house of home and family. I'm just feeling it so hard, and I'm taking full responsibility for all of my actions of the past, which I co-created from this shadow, taking full acceptance for all of the emotions that I feel because of the decisions I made around my home and family and the situation that I'm in, where I'm in now. I'm taking full acceptance and responsibility for it. And now I move forward and take inspired creative action, do the hard work to create a life for myself now that I truly deeply desire, which is to be bi-coastal. I do want to have a home on the East and West Coast. I do want to spend more time with my friends and family. I do want us to travel every few months from New York back to Vancouver, New York back to Vancouver. And that's always the life I've felt for myself anyway. Even when I was young, living in New York on the East Coast, I always knew I'd end up on the West Coast, but I always just knew that I'd be a traveler and you can't really pin me down. Like I am a homemaker. I do want to have a beautiful home, but I always want to be traveling because life is short. I want to spend as much time with my friends and family as possible. And there's so much to see and there's so much to do and there's so many beautiful spiritual vortexes around Earth that are calling me. I'm always going to be traveling. I'm always going to be on the move. But Saturn is hitting me so hard in the fourth house. And I'm just truly so grateful for this life. I'm grateful that I have a beautiful family back home that I miss and that I love and my friends that are my family. I'm so grateful for my husband, for our family back in Vancouver, our friends who welcome me with open arms and that I get to live this life and that I get to be here and share my experiences and I'm truly so grateful for it all. And now I'm going to take inspired action and work hard to make the life I desire a reality. So much love to you guys. Happy Saturn retrograde. You have a few months of retrograde until November to understand how it's showing up for you. Whatever's stirring for you this weekend, that's probably what's going on with Saturn because you're going to feel it the most today. You're going to feel it the most this weekend when it initially goes retrograde, and then it's going to subside, like the feelings, the heaviness of it. It's going to subside over the next few months. It's not going to be just extremely heavy until November of retrograde, but it is here to show you what changes you need to make, which direction you really want to move in, and the hard work and the discipline to do so, and just like the sobering realness of your decisions of the past and your decisions that led you to where you are now, and taking full responsibility for everything that you have done that you may have co-created from a shadow place that's bringing you to where you are now. And then how can you transmute those shadows into your gifts, and how can you unleash this onto the world in a positive, beautiful way with clarity, crystal clarity, now that you see everything so clearly because of Saturn, the Lord of Karma. All right, much love to you guys. And that is all. Peace out.